England captain David Beckham has been formally knighted by King Charles at Windsor Castle.
The grand halls of Windsor Castle have witnessed countless ceremonies throughout the centuries.
Windsor, the oldest and largest continually inhabited castle in the world.
Kings and queens have walked these corridors, knights have been dubbed, and history has been written within these ancient stone walls. But on this particular day, something extraordinary was about to unfold, a moment that would bridge the worlds of sport, charity, and royal tradition in a way that left even the monarch momentarily speechless. As the gilded doors of the state apartment swung open, a hush fell over the assembled guests. Among them stood Victoria Beckham, elegant and composed, yet unable to hide the emotion glistening in her eyes. Their children, grown now, but still Daddy's biggest fans, watched with barely contained excitement. This wasn't just another awards ceremony. This wasn't another trophy to add to an already legendary collection. This was the culmination of a journey that began in the humble streets of East London and had somehow led to this impossibly grand moment at Windsor Castle. David Beckham, football legend, global icon, philanthropist, stood waiting for his name to be called. The man who had played before millions, who had bent free kicks that defied physics.
Beckham scores for England! Posh Spice leads the applause. The breakthrough comes from the captain.
Who had captained England and conquered the world's greatest football clubs, now found himself in a position he'd never quite imagined during those early days kicking a ball around in Leytonstone. The boy from the East End. To understand the magnitude of this moment, we must travel back to where it all began. David Robert Joseph Beckham wasn't born into privilege or nobility. He grew up in a working-class family in East London, where dreams were big, but opportunities often felt small. His father, Ted, was a kitchen fitter. His mother, Sandra, worked as a hairdresser. They were good, hard-working people who instilled values of dedication, respect, and humility in their son. Values that would serve him throughout his extraordinary life. Young David's dream was simple but all-consuming. Become a professional footballer. Play for Manchester United. Represent England. Everything else, the fame, the fortune, the global recognition, none of that factored into the pure, uncomplicated ambition of a boy who simply loved the beautiful game with every fiber of his being. He would kick a ball for hours in the park, practicing those precise passes and powerful shots that would eventually become his trademark. His parents watched their son's dedication with a mixture of hope and concern. The odds of making it as a professional footballer were astronomical. But there was something different about David, something that set him apart even then. An unwavering determination, a work ethic that bordered on obsession, and a natural talent that couldn't be ignored. The making of a legend. When Manchester United came calling, the dream began its transformation into reality. Under the legendary Sir Alex Ferguson, young Beckham developed into one of the most gifted players of his generation. Those free kicks became the stuff of legend. The bend, the dip, the precision. Goalkeepers would set up their walls perfectly, position themselves just right, and still watch helplessly as the ball curved impossibly into the net. But it wasn't just about the spectacular moments. Beckham's work rate, his crossing ability, his football intelligence, these were the foundations of his success. He won 6 Premier League titles with Manchester United. He lifted the Champions League trophy in that unforgettable night in Barcelona in 1999. He moved to Real Madrid and proved he could perform among the Galacticos. He later took his talents to LA Galaxy, helping grow football in America, before stints with AC Milan and Paris Saint-Germain. For England, he earned 115 caps, serving as captain for 6 years. He represented his country in 3 World Cups and took that famous penalty against Argentina in 2002 that felt like redemption for the entire nation. He became more than a footballer. He became a symbol of English excellence, determination, and grace under pressure. Yet through all the glory, all the trophies, all the adulation, something fundamental remained unchanged. That East End boy, the one who grew up respecting the royal family, who was taught by his grandparents and parents to honor tradition and monarchy, never disappeared beneath the layers of fame and success. Beyond the pitch. What many people don't realize, what gets lost in the tabloid headlines about his hair, his fashion, his marriage to a Spice Girl, is the depth of David Beckham's commitment to making the world better. When the cameras stopped flashing and the crowds went home, Beckham dedicated himself to charitable work with the same intensity he once reserved for perfecting his free kicks. His work with UNICEF began in 2005 and has spanned nearly 2 decades. He's traveled to some of the world's most challenging regions, from Sierra Leone to Cambodia, from Swaziland to the Philippines, meeting children whose lives have been devastated by poverty, disease, and conflict. These weren't photo opportunities or publicity stunts. Beckham immersed himself in the work, learned about the issues, and used his platform to drive real change. He's championed causes ranging from AIDS awareness to malaria prevention. He's fought for children's rights, for education, for health care access. His Seven Fund, launched in 2015, has supported UNICEF programs protecting children in danger around the world. The fund's name? A tribute to his famous number 7 jersey, now repurposed for a mission far more important than any football match. In Beckham's own words, this charitable work isn't something he has to do. It's something he chooses to do because he loves it, because it makes a difference, because it creates change. For a man who achieved everything possible in sport, this work gave him a new kind of purpose, a new way to be a role model for his children and for millions around the world. The call that changed everything. Imagine receiving that phone call, the one informing you that you've been selected for a knighthood. For most people, it would be the pinnacle of a lifetime's achievement. For David Beckham, a man who had already climbed seemingly every mountain available to a footballer, it was something more profound.
Former England captain David Beckham has been knighted by the King at Windsor Castle.
A recognition not just of what he did on the pitch, but of who he became off it. Services to sport and to charity. Those 6 words encompassed decades of dedication, millions of lives touched, and a legacy that transcended football. When Beckham received the news that he'd been included in the King's birthday honors list, the emotion hit him like a wave. Here was this global icon, this man who had performed under unimaginable pressure in stadiums filled with tens of thousands of screaming fans, and he cried, not just in that moment, but for months afterward, as the reality of what was about to happen slowly sank in. For Victoria, soon to be Lady Beckham, the pride was overwhelming. She'd watched her husband evolve from that talented young footballer she'd met decades ago into a man who used his success as a platform for genuine good. She'd seen him with children in Africa, had witnessed his genuine emotional connection to the causes he championed. This knighthood wasn't just David's achievement. It was recognition of their family's values, of the example they'd tried to set for their own children. The week of emotion. The days leading up to the ceremony at Windsor Castle were, in Beckham's own admission, intensely emotional. Not stressful, not nerve-wracking in the traditional sense, but heavy with the weight of significance. This wasn't like preparing for a World Cup match or a Champions League final. This was different. This touched something deeper, something connected to his roots, his family, his sense of identity as an Englishman. Beckham thought about his grandparents, who had always revered the monarchy. He thought about his parents, who had sacrificed so much to give him opportunities. He thought about the journey from those East End streets to the grandeur of Windsor Castle. The distance wasn't just geographical. It represented a transformation that still felt surreal even to him. His children watched their father navigate these emotions with curiosity and respect. They'd grown up in a world where their dad was famous, where cameras followed his every move, where his face appeared on billboards around the globe. But this was different. This was their dad becoming Sir David, their mum becoming Lady Victoria. This was British history, royal tradition, the very fabric of the nation they called home. The family tried to keep things light. There were jokes about calling him Sir Dad or Sir Son. The Beckhams had always maintained their sense of humor, that working-class ability to laugh even in the most serious moments. But beneath the jokes, everyone understood the magnitude of what was about to happen. The moment arrives. Windsor Castle stands as one of the most iconic royal residences in the world. Its towers and turrets, visible for miles around, represent nearly 1,000 years of continuous royal occupation. The state apartments where investiture ceremonies take place are decorated with priceless artworks, intricate ceiling paintings, and furnishings that have witnessed centuries of British history. To walk these rooms is to walk alongside ghosts of monarchs past, knights long departed, and moments that shaped a nation. When David Beckham's name was called, time seemed to slow.
David Beckham, for services to sport and to charity.
He walked forward with the same focused determination that once carried him onto football pitches around the world. But this was a different kind of pressure. This was protocol, tradition, ceremony. Things that couldn't be conquered with skill or athleticism alone, but required reverence and humility. King Charles III stood waiting, resplendent in his ceremonial attire. The monarch had known Beckham for years through various charitable endeavors and royal functions. Charles had always appreciated Beckham's genuine commitment to service, his authentic desire to make a difference. This wasn't just a ceremony for the king. It was a pleasure to honor someone who truly deserved the recognition. As Beckham approached, he couldn't help but think about the protocol he'd been carefully coached on: where to stand, how to kneel, the precise choreography of a tradition stretching back centuries. For someone who had mastered the choreography of football, knowing exactly where to be, when to move, how to position himself, this was a different dance entirely. Silence fell. And then came the moment that will be replayed in news clips and documentaries for years to come. David Beckham knelt before his king. The 50-year-old sporting legend, global icon, and philanthropist lowered himself into a position of profound humility. His head bowed. The room fell silent. It wasn't just ceremonial silence. It was a hush that spoke of collective awareness that something extraordinary was unfolding. Victoria Beckham watched, tears threatening to ruin her carefully applied makeup. Their children sat transfixed. The other guests in attendance, themselves distinguished individuals receiving honors, recognized this as a singular moment. King Charles raised the sword, an ornate blade that had touched the shoulders of countless knights before this day. The weight of tradition, quite literally, was about to rest upon David Beckham's shoulders. As the sword descended in the age-old ritual, right shoulder, left shoulder, the formal touch that transformed a man into a knight, something passed between monarch and subject that transcended the ceremony itself. Even King Charles, a man trained from birth in the art of royal composure, seemed moved. Here before him knelt a man who represented the very best of modern Britain, someone who had risen from humble origins through talent and dedication, who had achieved unprecedented success yet remained grounded, who had used his platform not for ego, but for service. The king understood, perhaps better than most, the burden and privilege of service. In David Beckham, he recognized a kindred spirit. The formal words were spoken, Sir David Beckham, for services to sport and to charity. But the meaning resonated far beyond those official syllables. This was recognition of a life well lived, of dreams pursued and achieved, of success channeled toward helping others. This was Britain honoring one of its own, acknowledging that true nobility comes not from birthright, but from character and contribution. The aftermath. When Beckham rose as Sir David, the silence broke into warm applause. But the moment's impact lingered. As protocol dictated, he stepped back, bowed to his king, and prepared to leave the investiture room. But then something wonderful happened, something that showed the warmth beneath the formality of royal ceremony. King Charles and Sir David shared a joke. The cameras captured the moment. Both men smiling, a brief exchange of words, a connection between two people who understood the weight and privilege of public service. What was said remains between them, but the genuine warmth and mutual respect were evident to everyone watching. It was this human moment, this break from rigid protocol, that perhaps best captured what the day meant. This wasn't just pageantry and tradition for tradition's sake. This was one man honoring another, one servant of the nation acknowledging another, one person who understood duty, recognizing it in someone else. Pride of place. Afterward, when Sir David moved outside into the Windsor Castle grounds to speak with the assembled media, he held his medal with a mixture of reverence and disbelief. This small piece of metal and ribbon now joined 19 major trophies from his playing career: Premier League titles, FA Cups, the Champions League, La Liga Championship. The honors were staggering. But when asked if this knighthood would take pride of place above his 6 Premier League titles and other medals, Sir David's response was unequivocal. Without doubt. This recognition, he explained, wasn't just for sport. It acknowledged the philanthropic work, the charity efforts, the commitment to making a difference in children's lives around the world. For a man who had been defined by his footballing achievements for so long, this moment represented a shift. Yes, those goals and assists and trophies were magnificent. Yes, representing England 115 times was an honor beyond measure. But this knighthood for service both on and off the pitch, this validated a deeper purpose, a more meaningful legacy: the emotional truth. When asked about his emotions throughout the experience, Sir David's honesty was striking. He admitted to crying when he first received the news, and possibly for months afterward. Coming from a man known for his mental toughness, for his ability to handle pressure on the world's biggest stages, this admission of vulnerability was powerful. "I get that from my mom," he said, and in those words, we glimpsed the real David Beckham. Not the perfectly styled icon or the football legend, but the son of Ted and Sandra, the boy from Leytonstone who was taught to feel deeply, to value family, to respect tradition, and to never forget where he came from. The journey, he explained, was what made him emotional. The path from those humble beginnings to this moment at Windsor Castle. How does one fully process such a transformation? How does the boy who kicked a ball in East London Parks reconcile with the knight standing in Windsor Castle? The answer, it seemed, was through tears and gratitude, and a profound sense of pride, not just in personal achievement, but in proving that the British dream, working hard, staying true to your values, giving back, was still alive and achievable. Lady Beckham. Victoria Beckham's elevation to Lady Beckham carried its own significance. From Spice Girl to fashion designer to wife and mother, Victoria had always been more than just Posh Spice or Mrs. Beckham. She had built her own empire, established herself as a serious fashion designer, and been a constant support to her husband's various endeavors. Now, as Lady Beckham, she joined a tradition of British women who carried that title with grace and purpose. Would it change her? Unlikely. Would it change how the world saw the Beckham family? Perhaps. But more than anything, it was recognition that their partnership, their mutual support, their shared commitment to family and service was worthy of honor. The monarchy's importance. Throughout the interviews following the ceremony, Sir David repeatedly emphasized the royal family's importance to him and his family. This wasn't political posturing or ceremonial lip service. For generations, the Beckhams had held the monarchy in high regard. His grandparents, his parents, himself, his children. The thread of respect and admiration ran unbroken through the family line. When traveling the world, Sir David noted, people wanted to talk to him about the royal family. This observation revealed something crucial about both Beckham's global status and the monarchy's enduring appeal. Here was someone who could go anywhere on earth and be recognized, who had access to presidents and celebrities and power brokers worldwide, yet he remained genuinely honored by his connection to British royal tradition. The respect wasn't blind loyalty or unthinking allegiance. It was appreciation for what the monarchy represented at its best: continuity, service, tradition, national identity. For someone who had experienced the world's diversity, who had lived in Spain and America and France, who had been exposed to different systems and cultures, Beckham's consistent respect for the British monarchy spoke to something genuine in both the institution and the man. What it all means, so what happens next? The question posed in this story's title has an answer both simple and profound. What happens next is that Sir David Beckham continues being David Beckham, but with an even deeper commitment to the values that brought him to Windsor Castle. The knighthood doesn't change who he is fundamentally. He'll still be the devoted father, the loving husband, the passionate football fan, the dedicated philanthropist. But it does add weight to his voice when he speaks about causes he believes in. It provides another platform from which to advocate for children in need. It serves as inspiration for young people from humble backgrounds who dare to dream big. What happens next is that a new generation of children sees someone who looks like them, sounds like them, comes from where they come from, and understands that achievement and honor are possible through dedication and service. What happens next is that Sir David's charitable work continues, perhaps even expands, armed with the additional credibility and attention that comes with a knighthood. What happens next is that when the history of British sport is written, when scholars analyze the late 20th and early 21st centuries, David Beckham's name will be recorded not just as a great footballer, but as a knight of the realm who used his gifts and platform to serve others. The greater legacy. The moment when silence fell as David Beckham bowed his head will be remembered as more than just a ceremonial highlight. It represents something crucial about modern Britain: the possibility of transcending one's origins through talent and character, the value of giving back after achieving success, the continuation of ancient traditions in a contemporary context. King Charles's speechlessness wasn't shock or surprise. It was a moment of genuine recognition, a pause to acknowledge the significance of honoring someone who truly deserved it. In that silence, in that brief suspension of ceremony, something authentic occurred. A meeting of mutual respect between two men committed to service, separated by birth and station, but united by understanding of what it means to use privilege and position for the greater good. For Sir David Beckham, the journey from Leytonstone to Windsor Castle is complete, yet in many ways, it's just beginning. The responsibility of knighthood, the weight of that "Sir" before his name, the example he sets for his children and for millions worldwide, these are challenges as demanding as any he faced on the football pitch. But if his career taught us anything, it's that David Beckham rises to challenges. He bends the trajectory of his life as precisely as he once bent those impossible free kicks. He finds the target, whether it's the top corner of the net or meaningful change in children's lives around the world. The sword touched his shoulders. The king spoke the words. The transformation was complete. What happens next is up to Sir David Beckham, and based on everything that came before, the future looks as bright and purposeful as those glorious playing days at Old Trafford, but now serving an even greater cause. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a comment, share, like, and subscribe to keep up with more royal news updates like this.